All right. Hey, welcome to the Nonprofit Leadership Studio. Our big leader today is the pastor Kirbyjon Caldwell from Windsor Village. And Kirbyjon, thank you so much for being here today. And
Thank you for inviting me.
Your church is a powerful piece of our community. I love the story of how small it was when you took it over and how big it is now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've been there a long time. Been there 3.5 decades. That's a while. We started small, and gradually and organically, we began to grow. So internally, the focus always has been on children and youth, the worship service, and education. Externally, I've always been very intentional about wanting to take the sanctuary to the streets. I think that if a church is a church, then the church should be sensitive to what the Lord is calling that church to be and do in the community. And I don't think every church is called to do what we do, but I'm happy the Lord is calling us to do what we do in terms of impacting communities, changing destinies, influencing the infrastructure, and providing for the least, the last, and the lost. We're Methodist by label, and John Wesley, the original organizer of the Methodist movement, was very firm, believe it or not, in making certain that children would learn how to read, making certain folk were delivered from alcohol and addiction, and folk had food to eat and a place to sleep. So, what good does it do for the Lord to deliver us internally within the four walls, and then the church doesn't seek to make an impact in the community or in the hood, as I like to say.
Well, when you think about churches that, when I think about churches that grow, it seems leadership is sort of a key component of that, right?
Oh, it's absolutely critical.
And so talk a little bit about your leadership early on when you had the congregation of 25, and now you have a congregation of 16,000. What was it, especially early on, what was the leadership all about then?
I didn't know what I was doing. I did not know what I was doing. I mean, some folk would argue I still don't. But one thing was for sure, I wanted the people to know that I cared about them and loved them, right?
Yeah.
So it's that old adage, you've heard it 1,000 times, folk don't care how much you know to know how much you care.
Yeah.
And it was important for me that the folk would know how much God cares, and oftentimes that's personalized or manifest, I should say, through the love of the pastor. So that was probably a bedrock. And like John Wesley, I really believe, as I shared with you earlier, in releasing folk for ministry.
Yeah.
To use a scripture phrase, it would be the priesthood of all believers, but not just believers, a priesthood of all leaders. Let the folks serve where they serve best, and don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah.
At the risk of over answering the question, I think
go ahead.
a critical component for a leader is not just IQ. I mean, IQ is surely important.
You want someone
but
smart.
The EQ, the emotional quotient. And as you know, Daniel Goleman has done a lot of work on that.
Sure.
But a lot of would-be leaders and almost leaders I'll state it positively. Identifying and growing your EQ is very important.
EQ can make up for a lot too, can't it?
Can make up for a lot. And it can sabatage a lot if you don't have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can have a huge IQ, but if you don't have any EQ, it's sort of like, as a leader, it's to no avail.
You stink up the room.
Yeah.
and as Maxwell used to say, if you think you're a leader and there's nobody walking with you or behind you, then you're going for a walk. You're just going for a stroll.
So Kirbyjon, let's say you're writing the Kirbyjon book on leadership.
Yep.
What would some of the chapters look like for you?
First chapter would be on how to pick your leaders. And in that chapter, I would definitely address the issue of having the, let's say, the courage to let a leader know when the leader needs to go. I don't know about it, children at risk, but I see it in nonprofits all the time. I see it in for-profits too, but it seems to be more prevalent in nonprofits. We hold on to folk way too long. Even after they have indicated to us by their actions or whatever that they want to go, they need to go. Even after we've indicated that we want them to be there more than they obviously want to be there, we still hold on to them. And that sabotages the mission, or at least the integrity of the mission of the entity. So as difficult as that is, Jesus says that the children of darkness can learn from the children of light, the children of light. And one of the things I think the children of light can learn from the children of darkness is how to recruit, how to train, how to retain, how to evaluate, and when necessary, how to release the butts and seats, as they say, in the airline industry.
We had one nonprofit leader who said you should always be slow to hire, quick to fire. So take a long time in that hiring process, but if someone is not working out.
And quick to fire sounds a bit ruthless, but some folk need to be quicker to fire for sure. And we tend to hire, and corporations do this too, we tend to hire folk based on their competencies. What have you done? What can you do? Even the references we get tend to reflect what a person has done. But if you think about it, usually when someone gets relieved from his or her job, it's not based on competencies. More oftentimes it's based on character.
Absolutely.
Who you are. You can't play well in the sandbox with others. You're messing with the honey. You're messing with the money. It's a character issue. So I would say competencies, character, and passion are the three key qualities that you really need to look for when you're hiring someone.
Do you have another chapter outside of the hiring chapter?
Vision, of course, is always vision.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, Kirbyjon.
I'm a big Habakkuk fan, of course. Without the right vision, the people perish. But right behind that is a corollary. Without the right people, the vision will perish. So the right people, back to people again, will sabotage the vision. And to be totally transparent with you, we earlier you referenced the fact that the church was fairly large size. Big. So we're at the point now where we are, in a sense, re-identifying ourselves. And along with that comes a recasting of the vision. So if you had a graph, and you follow a life cycle, if you stay on that life cycle, you'll plateau and die. So you have to find strategies to go to the next level. So right now we're identifying strategies to go to the next level. And we are still kingdom builders. That's our tagline. And our vision ultimately is to usher in God's kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. So that won't change. But how we go about implementing that is the part that we're revisiting now. And I think when you've been around for a while, like Coca-Cola, like Children at Risk, you've been around for a while, you have to find ways to, kind of reinvent yourself and stay relevant.
Talk a little bit about collaboration for you guys, because there are nonprofits all over the city that are working on doing similar things. How many of them are working with you guys at Windsor Village, and how important is that collaboration?
Well, we were blessed to develop a mini, M-I-N-I, master plan community of 254 acres, which consists of an 8.5-acre commercial tract, elementary school, HISD elementary school, YMCA, an independent living facility, and 454 homes, 80% of which are low-to-moderate income homes. And needless to say, none of that would have happened without collaboration. So as we were seeking partners with whom we would collaborate, I wanted to make certain that the cultures were identical or similar, compatible. Compatible is a better word. And by that I mean, for instance, the home builder we chose to partner with to build the homes, the leader at that time really loved people, had a great reputation, was a person of integrity. He had relational skills. He wasn't afraid to get out in the community. So those types of things were important to us, and subsequently we chose him as a collaborative partner. YMCA is obviously a good collaborative partner.
Yeah.
So the collaboration piece is critical. And as your question implies, I think as we go deeper into the 21st century, the value of collaboration will be even higher. And the penalty for not collaborating will be higher as well. So I think collaboration is key. That's a real good question.
Yeah.
But we don't want to. I'm a pastor, so I'm gonna sneak in quotes from the Bible all the time.
Really?
From now and then. But while you are collaborating, you do not want to cast your pearls to the swine. So make certain you collaborate with someone or something who's worthy of your partnership, and they won't tarnish your name. Because you can spend a long time building a reputation, and in the twinkling of an eye, you can lose it. Sometimes lose it by simply partnering with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Jesus prayed all night long to choose 12 disciples, and 2 of those didn't work out.
Right. So sometimes it doesn't always work out, right?
Sometimes it doesn't work out. Yeah.
When you think of the long history that you've had with Windsor Village, from growth to today, obviously there have been sort of challenges for you. What are some of the leadership challenges, or one of the leadership challenges that you've faced over your time there?
Learning how to manage people. I hate to keep coming back to that, but that's just pivotal.
That's good.
Second is always budget. Budget.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's true of every nonprofit, isn't it?
Did I say budget?
Yeah.
And it's true of corporations too. I've been around a few of those entities, and the cash flow deal is real, particularly in today's society and in this economy. Establishing the right culture is critical.
Yeah.
So if I had to sum it up, it would be people, budget, and culture.
Yeah. And have there been instances where outside events have had impact on you as a leader?
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm sure there have been, and they're just not coming to mind right now. But nothing that's of hurricane impact.
Yeah, exactly. I know that you've been friends with many prominent people in Houston.
Allegedly.
Yeah, alleged friends. Does that come from you being a leader with just a large church, or does that come from you being a leader in our community?
That's good. That's a good question. I would say leader in the community, but some of those perceived relationships are optical only and not substantive.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can call a name. I'll tell you, but it's just and look, I don't say that negatively.
Right.
It's just a fact that sometimes people perceive that you're closer to a community leader or political figure or whatever than you actually are.
Yeah. Were you? I'm trying to think. There was.
Yeah, ask me anything.
I know. Were you did you pray at the Republican convention?
Well, no, I won't say worse than that. I introduced then Governor Bush at the Republican
that's what
convention.
it was. Yeah.
So, and I met him at a reception that was at Smith Graham, as a matter of fact, Gerald Smith, years ago, and he was there and I was there. And a guy named Charles Miller had been telling the governor about faith-based work that we were doing, and they were talking about it. The governor was talking about it, and we were doing it. So we just kind of got to know each other. And unbeknownst to me, he ended up asking me to introduce him at the Republican convention. And to be honest with you, I was not as politically savvy then as I am now, and I was not prepared for the ambush of response that I got. And
was there an ambush of response?
Yeah. My congregation, may I say hell in the podcast? My congregation, some members of the congregation called hell for that, because I was not a Republican. Still, I'm not. Right. I really call myself an independent. Though I tend to vote a lot more Democratic than I do Republican for sure, especially now. And we can talk about that if you want to. But so I'll never forget this. The Houston Chronicle. This is literally true. Monday, they ran an article saying I was going to introduce W. Tuesday, they interviewed me. Wednesday, they ran an editorial saying, I have the right to do that. Thursday, they said, my gosh, he's really going to do it. And Friday, they ran an article saying, he did it. It was
a week of Kirbyjon.
I should have saved each one of those. And, you know, I introduced him because I knew him as a person independent of the label, Republican. And I called several well-known local and national Democrats and asked them what they thought I should do. And to a person, they said, you know, you're going to catch a little flack, but, you know, it's something, if you should do it because you believe in the guy, then do it. And I did. You know,
and it's interesting, right? Because politics are much more divisive today.
Oh, Lord.
And we thought they were divisive then, but they're much more divisive today.
So let me take you forward 8 years.
Yeah.
So the feedback I got was pretty ugly. But when I became one of President Obama's spiritual advisors, the hate mail I got from the Republicans
really
made the mail from the Democrats look like baby peplum. It was embarrassing, and some of them did it in the name of the Lord.
Yeah,
it was crazy. So I've caught it from both sides. You know, when you're in the middle, you catch heat from the left and the right. And
you've been in the middle.
I've been in the middle. I've been in the middle.
Wow. All right, let's go to the Twitterverse and let's see what sort of questions we have. Oh, we just got about 26 new ones in here. So,
good.
Okay, this is good. Marcellin Champion wants to know, she says, people often think taking money is unseemly for nonprofits and churches. How do you approach asking for money? Good question.
That is a good question. As a matter of fact, some members of Windsor would tell you I don't ask for money enough. But it's certainly biblical to give. And so we follow the scripture in terms of giving. Period, stop, new paragraph, to go to the heart of the question even more so. You know, no nonprofit can exist without cash flow.
Right.
So I don't know where some people get this crazy notion from that, you know, nonprofit just kind of exists off ether or something. That is not the case. And if you don't have the resources you need, then you cannot deliver the mission that you're in the business of delivering. And I just think that any nonprofit worth its salt has a good mission statement. And it's not just a mission statement, they're actually on a mission.
Right.
So if they're on a mission, they're adding value.
Yeah.
If the members of the community see the value that's being added, then the entity is worthy of financial support.
Good. Monica Munoz wants to know, do you have a formal evaluation process for staff members?
We do. In fact, we have an HR person. And I guess I can say this. We are now transitioning in our evaluations. And what do I mean by that? Everyone on staff has a job description. But now, as of tomorrow, Thursday, whatever that date is, everyone will have submitted their deliverables.
Excellent.
Deliverables.
Yeah, metrics.
So you can have a job description and not do squat. And not add any value. But now we're putting a little, which I said, pedal to the metal, as you say, with Matrix. And it'll make us a better team.
How often do you, at Children at Risk, we do 6-month and annual evaluations. What do you guys do at Windsor Village?
Annually. But it should be 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some folk do them quarterly, as you know. Depends on the culture.
Yeah.
And depends on what kind of productivity you're trying to strike. And quite frankly, depends on, you know, the passion level of your team.
That's true too. We do also for new employees. We do a 30, 60, and 90 day before you get to the because new people need.
So do you do the personality assessments too? The blue, green, yellow, purple, that stuff?
No, we haven't. No, we're about to. We've not done that, but I have to say we're about to do a staff retreat, a strategic planning retreat, and one of the staff members who's done those before really wants us to do that. So
who leads your staff retreat? I mean, I know this is your show, but I should ask the question.
Yeah. No, that's
so do you
okay.
bring an outside person or somebody internal?
We have brought an outside person before. But sometimes we find there's varying qualities, right? And sometimes we find we can lead it from within because we have certain expertise that maybe can do it. So I spend a lot of time in front at a staff retreat, but I don't want to spend all the time.
Right.
And so a chief operation officer or some very capable younger staff members who you just hand over the leadership and you say go. And that often works quite well.
So I asked you that question with some intentionality. And it wasn't just giving you a hard time because
no, that's okay.
Your 50 students online need to know if they don't get that down, particularly in 2017 going forward, that dog will come back and bite them on the behind.
And we do have this
real
feeling,
hard,
right? And we have this feeling sometimes in nonprofits that everything's going to be nice, but when we have a limited budget, and you have a mission, people need to be on mission and serving their money's worth.
Exactly. In fact, back to your first person's question, and this is something that I need to emphasize more with our team, right? So let's assume we have a single parent, male or female, who has 3 or 4 children, who's on a tight personal budget, but who tithes. And by tithe, I mean they give 10% of their income to the Lord through the church.
Yep.
I'm getting kind of emotional thinking about this. So every program we have at the church, we've got to ask ourselves, is a dime of the dollar that we're spending on this program worthy of that single parent's tithe?
Yeah, giving up their hard-earned money.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can we look him, her, and I and say we're a good steward of your tithe? This program is a great representation of your tithe. And if we can't answer that with integrity and say, yes, it is, then we need to go back to ground zero. Maybe that program needs to be scrapped.
And I would say, Kirbyjon, not enough nonprofits, churches, schools, hospitals, and other nonprofits do that, right? Where they say, are we using this donor's money, this tithe money, are we using it in the proper way, right? I mean, because we both hear of nonprofits that have abused that privilege, haven't they?
I shouldn't say this because the team doesn't know it yet, but I'll be 65 next year. I don't care. But next year we're going to do a zero budget. Since I've been there, we've just kind of we haven't done zero. Next year in 17? In 18, we're going back to zero, and everybody has to justify that budget from the ground zero.
Wow.
That's going to be different.
They're going to love that.
Yeah, they will. I may be knocking on your door asking for a job.
Leslie Azalia wants to know, was there a time when you had to stop working or partnering with someone or an organization because something went wrong or they didn't share the same vision as you?
Yeah, there sure was. It was a person or two. Yeah. And how did and I suppose implied in that question is, how did I do it? It just happened organically from the standpoint that we had a disagreement, and we disagreed agreeably, and we agreed to do something else. So it worked out well, and
You just have to do it. Just move on, right? Michelle McClinton wants to know, what's the budget size for Windsor Village United Methodist Church with 16,000?
Roughly $12 million.
Wow. And the 12 million, obviously, because you guys are quite diverse, right? So that's not all tithing and donations. Or is it mostly is?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. No, we raise that every Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a deal, isn't it?
It's a weekly challenge.
So Damon Barone wants to know, how do you address conflict within your church or within your staff during times of your leadership?
Good question. Some folk would say I'm conflict avoidance. and in some cases they would be right. So I have folk on staff who are not conflict avoidant.
Right, you need that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know most of my weak points, so you try to bring in people who can cover you there. But I have to tell you, the older I get, I think the less conflict avoidance I become.
Yeah.
And
sometimes people appreciate the bluntness, don't they?
Yeah, and it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, it depends. It depends on your level of conflict, right? So I think, to a certain extent, every leader should encourage conflict. For instance, I had a meeting yesterday with 3 other leaders, and I made it clear to them, hey, you know, I don't want you to agree with me. You know, I don't become better. We don't get a better outcome here.
Right.
If everybody bows down and drinks my bathwater, you know, let me hear back from you and push back, because irritation creates the pearl, right? So that's one level of conflict. I mean, another level, to be extreme, gets a little bit more, you know, violent. And obviously there are grades in between. So I would say, if you're going to be a leader, there's a certain level of conflict that has to be inherent in the culture.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to have some apparatus, I suppose that's the plural form of apparatus, I don't know, in place that will resolve that conflict without people tearing up the culture of your church or nonprofit or children at risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Luis Morales wants to know, what are great ways in which to build trust with your employees?
Number one, don't lie to them.
Wow.
Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, ever.
Ever.
And number two, which is the kissing cousin of number one, be very transparent with them. You know, if they ask you a question, I think you deserve to give them, you know, the complete answer. Number three, you want to, which I guess all these are the same thing. You want to model what you want them to do and be. You know, so you can't say one thing and do something else. And then number four, you got to be consistent with 1, 2, and 3.
Do you have to be in modeling, Pastor? Do you have to be intentional, or does it come naturally to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think it comes naturally, but you know, you have to be intentional even while it supposedly is coming naturally.
Yeah.
There are a lot of what my wife calls a lot of decoy demons out there. There's a lot of temptation, and sometimes the temptation is very subtle.
Yeah.
And you don't know it's there until it bites you. So, you know, every David needs a Nathan.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 or 3 folk who will tell me the naked truth.
Yeah.
Particularly when I don't like it.
Yeah. I noticed that as a leader, for me, like impatience.
Right.
I have to be intentional about not seeming impatient.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just not good on me, right? I don't wear that well. Yeah. But I think sometimes we have to be intentional, you know.
Well, wait a minute. So does your impatience manifest itself as anger or intensity?
Well, like, hurry up, you know.
Well, see, as you may be able to tell from my asking that question, I don't think impatience is a bad thing. There are degrees, obviously.
Yeah. There are degrees, I think, and I'm super impatient. So.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, good. Well, I would dare say that children at risk wouldn't be as effective as it is if you were too patient.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Because some folks just take too long.
Yeah. Oh.
This is one impatient guy talking to another.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway.
No, some folks do
they do.
There's stuff to be done.
Yeah, unnecessarily take too long.
Yeah. I was talking to Steve Kleinberg this morning.
Yeah.
Steve Kleinberg.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, we've been talking about early education. And he's like, I don't think we need to do any more research. We need to be acting on early education right now.
That's a great example. Steve has been talking about the value of early education for 3 decades.
Right.
I mean, I remember a meeting, it's strange you bring that up, about 30 years ago that the Greater Houston Partnership had downtown in the old Houston Club. They brought in this group from Minnesota. And they talked about the value add of the pre-K, how important it is to lay hands on these children early on, and how you reduce the pipeline to prison, how you save money on the back end. And doggone it, that was 30 years ago.
And it's still, we're still talking about how we need to do more.
Man. Anyway, sorry.
So Afshan Malik, she wants to know how much of your effort at Windsor, within the Windsor family, is outsourced organizationally or administratively?
Very little, none.
You do it all in-house?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting she asked that question, because I was at a meeting the other day, and I won't call the name of the company. They just bought a robot. Actually, they bought 3 robots for $13,000 a piece to perform some clerical functions. As soon as I got in the car, I called our chief administrative officer and gave him the name and number of that robot salesman. We're not gonna, get one anytime soon, but as people retire from certain jobs, we're gonna replace them with that robot.
More efficient.
They don't call in sick. They don't take a lunch break. They show up on time every day. Sign of the times.
James Thomas wants to, being one of the largest churches in Houston, what are your views about the mega churches coming together to collaborate on major initiatives that could have an impact on Houston?
I wish we would. I wish we could.
Yeah. Do churches collaborate as well? We talked about collaboration.
Some, but let me get you.
Yeah.
Ask me that question again, but let me answer this one first. I mean, a little bit more fully. I don't want to get in trouble. Part of the issue is different churches see major initiatives differently. So the fundamental question, at least a fundamental question, it becomes, what is a major initiative? And can we agree on that? Excuse me. So once we agree on that one, then we can marshal our resources and address it. But oftentimes, that deal gets torpedoed at first base, because we can't agree, unfortunately, on what a major initiative is. And be it a so-called major church or not so mega church, as you know, some churches are not concerned about things in the community.
That's absolutely true.
To the extent that you are.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I am. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's different.
Yeah.
And it creates an incompatible culture.
Yeah. We notice in working with churches, some churches, that when we talk about dealing with kids, they say, oh no, we do our own children's programs. And what they're telling us is that they're interested in the children that go to their church.
Right.
But that's pretty much to the extent. I mean, you guys were a part of this one a couple of years ago. For a couple of years in a row, we had these Pray for Children weeks at the beginning of the school year, right?
Yes,
the first week.
Exactly.
And we had, dozens of churches from all over Houston being a part of that. But we had pushback from some churches, right? That they were dealing with, they had their own kids, and so they weren't going to be. And it's interesting. But I ask you this because in going through that, we did find there in the nonprofit world, there are nonprofits who don't play well with others, right? But in the church world, there seem to be more churches that are like
that. I'll pass.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all guilty.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Though it's.
It is very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So Dominique Henson has this question. She wants to know about the growth of your church. 25 members to over 16,000. You talked a little bit about that already, but obviously you had other leaders helping you, right, within your
Oh,
group?
Lord, yes. I mean, in fact, the members did it. It was organic growth. Members telling members, members inviting members. And that worked for us for a very long time. The members did it. We didn't have a door knocking campaign. We did not have an advertisement campaign. We didn't have TV presence. It was all internal and organic.
What was it though about your leadership, Kirbyjon, because a lot of churches start small and they don't ever get much bigger, right? Or they grow a little bit bigger, and they have good members. They have really good members.
Great members.
But was it the vision you established? Was it, what was it about your leadership that was different than the good pastors down the road?
Well, my most accurate answer would probably be I don't know now.
Yeah.
But let me also say, in the spirit of full transparency, we're not growing nearly as fast now as we were at one point.
Yeah.
And at one point, we were adding 800 to 1,100 members every year.
Wow.
Excuse me. That's not
That's not happening anymore.
But I would say multiple ministries really help being relevant in the community. Having a winsome worship service really helps. And integrity, I think, has a little something to do with it too. So of course now we have, with technology being what it is, let's say that folk have other options now, as opposed to getting in your car and driving to the worship place of choice.
Yeah. Are you guys televised?
We aren't, but we stream it. We're online.
Yeah.
Yeah, TV piece is great for some churches. It's not necessarily for me.
Yeah. And how many services do you guys have on a Sunday?
We have 3 on Sunday and 1 on Saturday night.
And which is the best one to go to on that Sunday?
Any of them. Of course, I'm not going to say it. You're not going to get me in that kind of trouble.
No, not good. All right,
I will add that as you go to the next question, each service has its own personality. Interesting.
Yeah, right.
So it's sort of like children, same parents, different children.
So Ashley Yarborough has a good question, and I'll ask 1 or 2 more, and then we'll finish up.
Sure.
How does your church handle shifting times, progress? Do you adjust, and have you adjusted over in terms of what younger people like?
We are adjusting.
Yeah.
And we just hired 2 or 3 new persons, as a matter of fact, within the last 90 days to help us adjust. Because while I have 3 young children, I don't profess to think like a 20-year-old person, and I won't even posture myself like that way. So I think that gets back to the personnel, to the human capital element again. Having the right people on staff to steer you to where you want to go.
It's about the people, isn't it?
It is about the people.
So last question, Stacy McKenzie. How do you intentionally mentor young ministers or young congregants who are taking on leadership?
Well, another good question. I am not your consummate or quintessential mentor. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert.
Really?
I'm not shy necessarily, but I am an introvert. So the best way for me to mentor you is for you to get in the seat next to me, put on your seatbelt, and roll with me. You ask me a question, I'll tell you anything I know. But I'm not the kind of guy who'll patiently sit down, spend 90 minutes with you once a week and process what you've learned. That's not me. It's on-the-job mentoring.
Yeah, I like that. Because you're right. It's interesting you say get in the car, put on your seatbelt, and be beside me. I feel like I've mentored more people that way than almost in meaningful ways, and where they felt happy to question, right? And it's a good lesson for anyone who wants to have a mentor. Have questions to ask.
Right. And I suppose I'm an experiential learner. I don't know, but in today's society, with things being so mercurial and moving so quickly, you gotta get going.
You do. You gotta get going. That's right. All right. Final questions. Your favorite restaurant, Kirbyjon, in Houston?
Want me to give them a free plug like that?
Yeah, you give them a free plug.
I'd be happy to. Medici's.
Medici's.
It's a new pizza place over in Richmond, and pizza sounds kind of ordinary.
Yeah.
It is real Italian style pizza.
It's good.
It is first class, top draw pizza place. It's nice.
And you and your wife are going there a lot lately?
Believe it or not, I haven't taken my wife. I keep telling her we need to go, but I've been 4 or 5 times and going tomorrow. As a matter of fact, it's just good. Owned by a great guy, great food, great salads.
Yeah.
They serve wine. I don't drink wine necessarily, but the wine is great. I mean, it's a first-class place.
It's a good place.
Medici's.
And when you look at the greater landscape of Houston, is there like a little place in Houston where you think people don't know enough about this place? It could be a park, any sort of venue, anything?
I just realized you got me in trouble. I answered that. We have several members who own restaurants.
Well, you can tell me those places.
Esther's is great too.
Esther's is fantastic.
In the Heights. So anyway, anyway, thank you.
Favorite venue?
Venue, mine.
Yeah, just little
to hang out. Jeez.
Or a little secret in town that.
Well, if it's a secret, I won't tell it.
Yeah, I know.
May I think about this for a minute?
Sure. Yeah.
I like Memorial Park.
Yeah.
I mean, Memorial Park is no secret.
It's not, but probably, and it gets crowded, but people like it.
I don't mind saying, my family and I used to live in the Woodlands.
Yeah.
They have 101 parks out there, last I counted, and last I heard. So any one of those 100 parks plus is a crown jewel.
Yeah, wow. And when you think of a great leader, who do you think of, Kirbyjon?
Someone that no one knows, and that'll be my grandparents, my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Houston?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm a third generation Houston.
And where'd you go to high school in Houston?
The University of Kashmir High School. Thank you for asking.
Kashmir High School.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, speaking of leadership, so I entered in '68, graduated in '71. We were a so-called prototype school. What does that mean? We were the first school in HISD to have a desegregated teachers. We were all black student body.
Oh, wow.
With 30 to 40.
Because Kashmir was the first segregated, integrated school as well, right?
Well, yeah, the teachers were.
Yeah.
So 30 to 40% of the teachers were Anglo, and the school was all black. Yeah, that was back in the day.
That is back in the day.
Yeah.
What year was it when schools became integrated in Houston? Do you know?
I think we started playing football in '71. I'm turning over to Chief Dirt in '71. In fact, I remember that painful game at Jefferson Stadium, Bel Air versus Kashmir. Kashmir lost 6-0 because the referees cheated their you-know-what off.
Wow.
Excuse my French. Pissed me off. I still remember that. And Wheatley High School, the quintessential team back in the late 60s, early 70s, referees again. It was 5 against 7 in every game. People think referees cheat intentionally, unintentionally now. They should have been around in the early 70s. It was horrible. But that was a part of the pain of desegregation and us coming
I feel like we
together.
could probably do a whole show just on that.
We could. Invite me back. I'll be on the panel.
Very good.
Yeah.
Pastor Kirbyjon Caldwell, thank you so much for all that you do. Thanks for being here on our leadership.
Thank you for your leadership. And
absolutely.
Congratulations
Thank you so much.
on a great job at Children at Risk.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you all very much. That's it for the Nonprofit Leadership Studio this week. We'll see you next time. Keep up the great work.